Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is going to be episode 1 of the Sauce Pot. And what we're going to be addressing today is some of the reasons why many people you're hearing are returning to a meat-based diet and are kind of going to more of a minimalist diet and eating a very specific way. So one thing that we're seeing here is we're seeing a lot of people have either gone plant-based, they've gone vegan or vegetarian for X amount of time, or they've just been consuming processed foods significantly more than home-cooked foods and kind of our red meats and our chickens and our fishes and different things. So the thing that we kind of see here is as we shift more into our processed foods and our vegan vegetarian, I would argue that there's a little bit of inflammation that comes with this quite a bit more than not. Me, myself, personally, I have seen that is one of the main reasons why I kind of eliminate quite a few vegetables from my diet, and I don't eat your spinaches and your broccolis and stuff nearly as much like I used to, like your standard bodybuilding diet might see, or your standard performance diet might see, whereas I do believe that if a food is in fact giving you an intense amount of GI distress, you probably want to eliminate it from your diet if you plan on processing the other good things that you're eating pretty well as well. Inflammation and bloating and stuff like that and GI distress they really mess with absorption. And it's not just going to be fun if you're going to be spending like 8-9 times a day on the toilet. It's kind of nasty thing to think about, but some of us have run into this issue with either processed foods or vegetables, or when we change diets, or when we actually eat a solid meal and all of a sudden everything just cleans on out. That's how it kind of works. You don't need a detox. You don't need to purge your system of toxins. What you need to do is simply eat some good meats and some good foods and even at myself, I've reduced back to I go through a couple things because over the years, vegetables and fruits and stuff just did not standardly digest well with my body, no matter what form or fashion they were included with. And we see many people come to me, and I've seen this with many other people as well. They run into the same issues where you're getting GI distress with certain plant matter, you're getting lack of energy, you are creating certain nutritional gaps if you're not actually consuming X, Y, and Z meats during your week. You even look at the time span versus in our different proteins, from our chickens to our fish to our red meats and our steers and our bison. Look at the amount of time it takes to bring that steer or that bison to full maturity and then to slaughter, which then ends up on your table. It takes significantly longer, whereas your chickens, in fact, they just mature way faster, and I just believe the nutrient content just won't be the same quality. You can even research and look up what's in them. I've done it dozens of times, and you see there's quite a bit more sugar in chicken than we actually would expect, and I do believe it is because of what they're fed. So we start kind of looking at the reason why people keep on migrating back to this very kind of meat-based, meat and potatoes diet is because we've tried exploring out there. And you will see even myself and many others, when we are advising eating more of our meat-based and making sure that our meats are in fact the main content of most of our meals. This isn't to say not having balance, but usually it's from experience and experience with others having significant issues with certain GI distress. And we also start seeing, and you see as coaches, when you've worked with enough people, you've seen recurring trends where people standardly digest certain things differently. Most people digest a lot of things the same way, though, where you'll see your dark leafy greens will cause more GI distress. And as we kind of start removing them a little bit more and getting some of our nutrients from other places, we might even just, in fact, a little bit of the bloating comes down, a little bit of our GI distress comes down. We start processing things better. And guess what? Your appetite picks up and stuff as well. We see a lot of people coming back to meat-based who have excessive body fat. And guess what? We look at some of those qualities that come with red meat where they're very nutrient dense. The satiety is there where it is a little bit challenging to chew at times. That's okay. Chewing aids in digestion, people. Like you can't just live off of shakes and then wonder why you don't actually handle an entire meal properly because you just aren't used to digesting foods. Now, this isn't the same issue, I would say, with veggies and just digesting in general. Your standard rate of digestion is one thing, but when you consume a food and it's inflammatory to you and you in fact don't digest it well and it causes a lot of GI distress, this is a completely separate method, I would say. It's a kind of different application of what we're looking at. But like I said, we keep on coming back because the basics, we think we forget what the actual basics are. You look at what our diet was 30, 40, 50 years ago, and the things on the shelves now, some of the things didn't physically even exist. You look at some of the cereals and all the different things. Now, a little bit of cereal, a little bit of different things, a little bit of sugar is perfectly fine. You don't need to just eliminate sugar all across the board. But I would argue it probably shouldn't be even maybe in the 6 to 7% of your diet realm. Let's keep it like under that 5%. And I'm not saying avoid all carbs because we still need them for resources and energy. But the thing we do see is a lot of people who are coming back to meat-based and eating your whole meats and whole foods and stuff again, they're coming back because they had an issue with the opposite end of the spectrum. And a lot of the things they're doing is by experience and trial and error. Most of the things that I have learned is through trial and error in my own body and then working with people and seeing what their bodies in fact do or do not do by applying certain things. And we look at stuff over certain timelines as well. When you introduce a food, you want to make sure that you give it its due time because you will, in fact, when your diet changes, guess what? No matter what happens, when your diet changes, you will see a little bit of GI distress. If you've been eating badly and all of a sudden you switch to a good diet and you wonder why you're on the toilet all the time, well, you actually gave yourself some stuff that it needs, and that's where we talk about our detoxes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Sauce Pot 1. There's a lot to cover in just a little bit of time here. We will come back to this stuff, but just a reminder, balling on the basics isn't a bad idea. You can go with your chickens, you can go with your red meats, your ground beefs, a little bit of eggs, throw in your rice there, get a little bit in there, some of your potatoes and stuff. But the thing is, if you do standardly struggle with dark leafy greens and certain vegetables and fruits, you're not wrong for keeping them out of the equation. If they cause GI distress, I believe you should bring it out of the equation and see how you do with digesting other things. There's a lot of ways to get X, Y, and Z things. But the fact does come down to that our red meats do contain some stuff that you just simply can't really get in good form any other places. Have a good day, guys.